Implication, highlines, channels, operations, streamline position location, high setting interference, tracking communication through a system. Track lines is really understand the direction of time sequence. We have to really understand how to open up the sequence locations all over the channel operation line connection system to a foundation location and graph lines is 0 to 12. That's the calculations to its foundation. Always have that set in signal. Always have that in measure. Always have that in scale. Always have that in balance. Everything that general says is okay, we modify to balance position locations. Anything that's negative, positive. Anything that's negative, positive. Anything that's negative, positive. 3-line communication settings, all of it's a negative, positive line conditions of 3 tracks. Setting direct signals is really understand how to use in all formation locations. Okay, this is an implication to a setting lines of interception. You're interlining, you're interlacing connection high settings. This opens all track communication setting. As a linear communication of today, we come into 97, which is 9 lines in 7 over pi, setting correlation system into your theta in direct line connections to your pixel activation line setting that sets up its square line into 4 line into 5 setting, 5 element locations. Fire, earth, water, and air. Okay, that's going to be centralized in your pixel activation streamline in your theta set locations. Communication line interference of realms in set location setting, indirect signals. So let's get started, shall we? All right, so I'll get that line connection high setting. Track lines of interference. Now, track line interference line set locations. We got a track line, setting kind of system location, equalize position locations, comes into copy. Okay, track lines a copy. So we take the copy to communication, operates to its system, and set lines in perception, in set line condition system, to all levels of Y line setting. Y lines equal location and flux capacitor set location setting. Okay, now you have to really understand how to use the track line. See, when you set up position locations of letters, numbers, shapes, and symbols, it becomes its own intelligence of its thought. You're no longer dealing with thoughts. It's intelligence of its thought. So it has its own creation. It has its own volume. It has its own taste. It has its own space. It has its own time. It has its own modulation. It has its own interception. It has its own calculation to its own pi setting. Okay? So recognizing that communication changed track lines into telewaving, into remembering, to its atmosphere line, to its communication line, to its kaleidoscope location system. Track lines 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 line setting. Communication in perception to Y line setting, circle line Y line, in position of flux capacitor. Flux capacitor center communication setting in Fibonacci. Swings on line communication to 6 line positions. Opens all signal line conditions, but sun operates its surface location setting in direct system. Track lines as graph lines in 1, in position of 2, in position of 3, in position of 4, in positions of 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Track lines, bracket line interference, and set location setting in direct signals, done by equation. All right, so the tracks are set up through copy and paste. Lines, electrical line positions of panels. We got a box line calculations to a TV line set rotation. Right? 3 channels operation line setting. Okay, setting communication, lacing lines and set location setting in direct locations to your T reception. So in that lines, you have a ground lines, operation surface and set location of 3 settings. Right? So this is a box line calculation line position location of an error. That sets health communication. So you got 2 waving line centers, 3 line in center line position. Now 3 dials come into line condition of past, present, and its future. Past, present, and its future locations. All right. Now we take those 3 line settings, line position all levels, past in the center, present in the center, and future in center location setting. This redirects line conditions all levels to its Fibonacci line setting and rotation surface and set locations. The center lines is communication. Picks after stream lines and 12 line set locations, high system position location, high setting, the direct line signal. Done by equation. Okay, lacing lines calculation. Now understand how to use lacing line is really understand how to use the plateau. Plateau calculates in lines interference line conditions, alpha line channels. So we got an alpha wave, we got a delta line signal, and we got a theta box line rotations into a beta signal locations. Right? So alpha line, delta wave, theta communication, into lines of track line, and set lines of beta in an open signal in position location to its pi set line condition. Now, it gets complicated because now you're using clock lines and high center interference in set locations. So this is where we come into the bubble defense line calculation setting, beta wave line interference, monotone calculations, Setting calculations in alpha line setting, high set line condition system in a square line, and position location of delta line, in line conditional levels of triangular line. Calculations in theta comes into center communication of box line to reception locations in a higher channel line or rotation surface and ground line setting, done by equation. Setting direct signals location high system. So we take the alpha line, delta, theta, beta, and mega. Setting line is a radiation line and it's a location system. Now this comes into zeta. Zeta line rotations into vega. Vega line calculation system comes into higher levels of volume and position location of velocity and calculation system to acceleration line setting. Now in direct line setting, vega line rotation setting right here, setting open all signal locations comes into position locations or levels. It aligns the calculations of its gamma line signals in line conditions of 9 line settings and position at all levels of set location system and track communication. So energy lines, rotation lines, lacing lines, and communication system 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 set location settings. Indirect signal 2 set locations. Now the sun line comes in this way, set location, operates its signals, operates line conditions, sun operation, setting communication 6 line, moon operation lines, travels its line communication system to forward line setting and travel communications set line setting. Now, directing signals is to understand how to use a formation location of a graph line. Graph line to a signature line, position a path line that sets 9 lines of 7 line condition system. This opens up theta channel line interference line calculation setting. Sending vega communication, vega travels over here in position locations into north of east set location. Setting calculation of the 0 lines, 0, 0, 0, 3 line setting, 0, 0, 0, 3 line setting, through 0, 0. 3, 6, 9. So 9 lines is sun, 9 lines vega, 9 lines all levels of the moon, and set line conditions of earth, the set location system. Box lines of all 4 line settings and set location of 9 settings. Done by equation, right? Central communication line interference of track line communication. So we take the 4 line settings, 9, 9, 9, 9. We start with that line connections, right? Center calculations on all levels, Fibonacci swirl, and the opposite direct location setting. Indirect signals and position locations to the opposite location system direction. Setting calculations into a center line communication and rotation surface. Setting calculations to a dome, line rotations into the line center in calculations of 9 positions, and 9 position locations, right? That implicates its line center location of past and position location of present and position location of its future adaptation surface. Setting calculation line interference into your pyramid activation line setting and all calculations to its streamline in rotation surface and set location system. Done by equation. All right. So setting calculation is trying to understand how to volume your line setting locations. So we take the 9 lines, we set the 4 line, 3 line conditions of 3, sets position location of 3, set locations of 9s. Okay. 4, 9. Okay, so basically this is 4 line setting. Okay, and set location of 3 0 line connections. See what I'm doing? So everything is surfacing up in longitude and latitude line condition ice system. Track lines and position locations into bandwidth and calculation setting. Open up the mind sequence location of dome line rotation, set line conditions, center line conditions ice system. So we take the 9 lines, 9 lines, 9 lines, and 9 lines in set location setting. Indirect light, we take the 4 line rotations into the opposite circle this way, this way, this way, and this way, and 4 set line conditions. Lacing line communication comes into line center. So we take the 3 lines of zeros in the opposite circle line conditions into the center operation to its position locations. This implicates the line condition on levels. This is where it puts 9 line setting in position location north, in position of east, west, and south line to its diamond core of its set location system. This opens the line condition of a circle line rotation setting in travel communication in line setting. Setting communication walking surface, set line calculation system, and higher calculation setting. Version of time sequence comes in position locations to a tube line rotations in a 2 panels operational line calculation setting direct signals. Setting direct signal location of center line and position of operation to a set line condition system and track locations. Now in that track line condition system, you take the 4 lines of 9 in line conditional levels. 4 lines of 3 is 7. So we set lines condition of 7, 7, 7, 7, 7. So lines 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 line center, 5 equal location of 7, line condition of 12, 12 line center of 24, 24 to 48, 48 to 72, and 72 to 144. Crystal grid line setting, cross signals and set line condition system, indirect signals and set locations. Setting ground lines, crop circle line condition system 144, 244, 344, 444, and 555 and set line condition setting, indirect line signals. Setting energetic graph line streams and set location system, indirect line signals. setting calculation line interference, and set line calculation setting. 0 to 12, line interference, line calculation system. So you take the 4 lines of 9 and set lines of 3 lines of 9, 7 calculation center, line interference locations, 8 positions of space, 8 positions of time, take line center, line interference, 8 position location, 8 position locations, right? Center calculation line and flux fast communication. So 2 consoles, calculation in 1 line setting at 2 positions, operation to surface location of dimensional time, lots of signal locations in the setting to travel, setting line position location, operation surface center line calculation setting, indirect line connections to its atom rotation. In that atom rotation, center line is communication line, center line interference, into its future, into its present, and into its past line calculation setting direct signals. Setting direct line interference, line calculation system, splitting communication line interference of 8 position locations, locking signals, 2 panels operation stream location system. Channels line, center line interference, offline signal, ground line rotation setting and position of track line. Setting communication line interference, a pixel activation stream line, a box line communication system. So we take the 8 line positions, 8 position location of space and time, travel line communication setting, and making the line interference, line connection, metabolic line rotation, position locations into Metatron setting. Recognition of time sequence locations of pi lines, high calculation of timestamp, line calculation of box service, and TV subs locations, and 9/7 through pi calculation. Done by equation. All right. So there's a lot of calculation line streams that are coming into high signals. We have to really understand how to get positions of how to line signal its position location of track lines, how to use the alpha line setting, position location of beta position location of theta line operation to a system, understand the use of all calculations to its setting position of realms, calculation modification to a line setting, how to use an alpha channel communication line interference, electrical line communication, and program location communication, high center, and position location of the moon, operation line condition of the sun, the code communication line interference, operation signal, setting communication operation, streamline set location of high center, position location, and traction, levels of line connection line system. You take the 4 line interference, the 3 line in position location, high center location of 7, position location area code, line calculations of digital frame line communication, the moon, communication, the sun, communication line interference, location, operation, signal location, operation, line setting, indirect signal location of projection locations, how you use unification line conditions, your higher self, to your avatar, integrated line interference location, yin and yang process communication setting, operation suits locations, and 3 set location settings, triangulation line interference, setting calculation inhibitor, line rotation setting, all calculation modification, all circle line calculation system, indirect signals, platitude line calculation system, alpha weight calculation, delta line center line interference, theta communication line rotations, in position locations and mega line interference, and calculation line interference, and data line in rotation, position location, track line setting. That way equation. All right. Now, okay, let's see here. We got T-line settings, Gypsy Communications, Bala Girl, Heather Communications, all levels. Make sure you check your pre-flights, all levels, navigation signals, consoles, communications, all levels, high setting. Get into that lines of track line communication to its interference and track location system and direct line signals, opens all position location in your measures. All right, so let's see. Bojan, calculation streamline, center line, high setting. Redirecting signals. Okay, so we come in this track line communication of 8 position of space and time. So understanding the connections to a Metatron setting. Metatron interference, the set location of box lines in 3 set location system, track line calculations. So pixelation line and line centers of 3 sets, box line condition almost setting position locations. Now, this implicates line conditions on levels, 5 elements of space in set location system. So you got the water, you got the air, you got the fire and calculation system, you got the ground settings, operation circuits and data lines and high stream interference and 4 set location system. Setting calculation line interference, travels communication of 4 box line center, electrical line, position location, electrical panels, electrical line center line interference, line condition line system. Ground lines is 0 operation, ground lines is 0 operation, ground lines is 0 operation, the atmosphere line calculation system into magnetic high information line stream and set locations. All right, now line condition is tube line, setting position location of 1 and position of 2 and set locations. Travel calculation line interference is centering lines its position locations into its north of its east winds and position location to its east of its south wind set location. Setting channels of operation line setting sets position location of tone set locations. So that direct line center lines position location of 6 and sets lines of communication of the sun that opens all position of track lines. All right. That directs its signal to the center communication that sets another line stream and set line condition system. that center lines its line communication system at a 45-degree angle, setting line communication a balanced line setting in rotation surface. So coming into the pixel activation streamline. Okay. So again, you got your T reception line setting, box location, antenna, setting communication, right? 3 dials and set line condition system. Past. You got your position, your present, and you got position, location of future. Future application line center. Line is positioned in its avatar. Avatar sets line conditions to all set locations to its elements of water, earth, and position locations of fire. Okay. And its air. Center calculation, center position. Right? Now, open up sequences of flux capacitor line setting location of channel. At channel operations, set lines of ground lines. Always have to have zero operation. Setting calculations of 1, in position of 2, in position of 3, in position of 4, in position of 5, in position of 6, 7, 8, and 9 position locations and set lines. So 9 lines of 7 location system. So 9 line eagle line interference, pi direction of time sequence locations, pyramid activation line rotation surface into atom line rotations. Moon comes in and calculations streamline set locations. There's the moon. Setting calculations, sun comes in line calculations setting in all adaptation surface into a new set location setting and travel mechanism line calculation of space. Now, the direction of time sequence, you have to understand how to use the mechanism of travel. Travel line conditions, that's exactly what it is, Jim. It is. It's the sailing relays of balance. Setting calculation lines interference sets line position of its sail. It's a divisional line of a direct line center of a dimensional line of a rotation surface to set location system. It center lines its communication and triangulation. So that's why you always have a connections to a metal interface line of a sail. A sail is a calculation to balance your signals and set location system that hides the earth line rotation. Setting calculation line interference grounds the line interference of its moon that opens up higher levels of calculation to its sun line of calculation balance. Setting direct signals and set location system of pi and set line conditions. Okay, done by equation. All right. Rotation, spin cycles, line center, pixel activation line, rotation surface locations. Always in the ground lines, always in the atmospheres, and always in the center position. You're always in that set location setting. You are in the center operation. That's you in set locations. So levitation, 2-line setting, direction of time sequence. Fly direction of timelines in your avatar set locations. Travel settings and direct location system. Travel communication, travel line set locations in the north line, east and east to west line communications, setting communications into 9 and position location of 7, center line connection line system. Puts lines of track line into all calculation system and track line interference and position location of tube lines, center calculation system to your pyramid activation streamline and set location system. All right. So it's really recognizing how to set line conditions of tone lines. It measures this correlation system. So you got the integration location of higher self, setting line conditions avatar into its avatar line center in flux capacitor communication. Now, center line calculation system comes into the sun. Sun lines its cross line streams, location of its northeast line setting. Rest of time sequence sets the lines of a tube line rotation, travels its line calculation system. Now, the redirect line center line conditions of the moon circles line conditions of north winds and set their calculation of galaxy lines, setting galaxy lines in a tube line rotation in a downshift cross line stream and set location. The center lines its communication to earth line perception lines and set location setting. Now, directing signal and set lines of communications puts your lines in line center location of 4 and position locations all levels of 9 set line conditions. All right, so in phenomenon, 4-line sequence line calculations set 2 atom sequence locations into high calculations at ground lines in 555 in set location system and direct line signals. Done by equation. All right, so we come into tunnel defense. Now, tunnel defense is really understanding how to use the sequence patterns. Now, it has a correlation system. So this is where it comes into spot line channels. Okay, center calculation line interference, travel position locations, placebo cortex line settings, eye line and rotation, position locations, wall interference, electrical line conditions of 2 panels, operations locations. Now, if you look really, really close, that's connected to a wall line setting. Wall line center line conditions of 0 lines, operation to its 1 line rotation, 0 line connection to system, 0 line operation location of 1. 0 line position of 1, line pixel activation of 0, and position location of 1. Line condition implicates line condition of 0 and position location of 1. Center line condition of 0, line condition of 0, and position location of 1. Center calculation of 1, and position location of 1, and position location of 1, and position location of 0, and set location setting, direct line signal, and set location. Now, How I've set this up is two panels of operations. So you got the Earth line rotation surface and set locations, right? Earth is here in line connection ice setting in your track line communication system. Now that track lines is setting. So we have the UFO line rotation, setting the line condition of scan lines, scanning, 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 scanning. And I'll say line conditions down my equation. All right. All right. So as you come into the UFO line rotation interference, it scans lines, picks after streamline rotation, line condition at levels of 0, 1 line rotation positions, track line communications. Now, if you go back in line calculation system, it's at 1, 1, 1, 1. Equal line conditions of 1, right? So that's 4 lines, equal line conditions of measure, and set line condition system. That measures its count line of 6 position location of the moon in a line calculation string, setting calculation of the sun line and rotation surface and set location system. They're always in together in set line conditions to its setting. So picks out the string line, moon lines of rotation surface, and the atmosphere line conditions of sonar line rotation. Setting calculates sun line sets laser direct line signals in 3 set location system. Tracking line calculation, line position location, higher set line condition, high setting, direct signals. Down by equation. All right, so that set lines of 4 measures. So we take the 4 measured line condition levels, black line condition 1, 2, 3, 4 set locations. All right, 4 equals that. So triangulation line in position. All right. So if you look really close, you can see the UFO line rotations, setting communication system. Right. So this is what it is in track line communication. Directing signals, set line calculation of travel, position location, high setting. So in that direct line signal, sets lines of 0 operation to a surface and high calculation. Now, this directs line signal location of laser lines and center communication. Center communication lines, its ground lines and rotation surface. Steady calculation line interference sets a line condition of 2 lines in position of 6. Center communication of 0 into 1 in position locations, higher levels of travel line calculation system in 12 line signals in set location. Now, redirecting line interference comes into 4 lines. 4 lines equal locations of 5. Now, 5 lines in location of 7, set location of 12. I'm always working that set line high system. It tracks the line communication, 12 lines of 1, 12 lines of 2, 3, and 4 set locations above signals. Setting lines of scan lines, operation to its surface sets a line communication open signals into a magnetic high wave formation channel and set location setting direct system. Done by equation. All right, coursing line settings is really to understand how to set sequence patterns in direction of pixel activation line connections. All right, so we're taking 4 lines in connections of 5, in equal locations of 7, 7 locations of 12, and 7 location system. So setting lines of 0 lines of 5, setting position of 5, 5, 5, 5. Okay, bracket communication above setting, right? 4 line channels, center line, center line, center line, and communications in the position of triangulation, triangulation, set location setting. Now, direct lines of 12 sets line communications into a 24 clock line rotation surface that comes back in signal and set location system to higher levels of channel in the opposite direction. Now that opposite direction location shakes the 5 lines and positions back into 6. Moon lines as rotation surface sets up another correlation panel, the operation setting, 2 travel communications, line centers, a 2-panel operation, line streams as line calculation setting, and direct signals and set locations. Down by equation. Okay, open up sequence patterns is understand how to set up pixel activation line setting. It sets line communications all levels of 0, 1 line rotations. So we take the 0, 1, 0, 0, 0, 1, 0, 0. So we've got implication line interference of alpha line, implication and position of delta line conditions of omega line, and 0 line communications into theta line communications into beta line, and communications all levels into gamma, sigma, okay. Sigma line and center line interference and set location settings and direct signals sets communications into tone lines and 2 lines, 3 lines, and 4 lines, and 5 position locations. Now, this implicates line center location of graph lines and set location of 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 line sets its position location off signals. Setting calculations in position location of the moon, center lines as center line communication in the program. Setting that program locations at higher levels of channel operation line setting. Now, this opens signals to the sun. The sun crisscrosses line calculations of the moon, operates its signals and set locations to another tube line center and a 12 line track line operation direct line connection type system. This opens all channel operation line settings into a magnetic force line, into alpha delta operation to theta, position of beta, and a gamma line signals and set location system. That way equation. All right, so getting into schematics, line condition line settings. Very good, Heather. Setting position of track lines, we understand how to use the calculations to its crystalline to its all calculation line inference, alpha line channel. So we jumped into alpha line, setting line position of creation, and line conditions of crystalline to its communication. All right. So the atmosphere changes lines of delta. Delta lines its location, center line communication of box line, position of theta, setting communication line settings, rotation surface, and set location system. This redirect line interference locations into omega, line communications on all levels of the moon, set location setting, direct signals. Right. So the communication of the sun operates its surface and set location system, downshifts its cross lines into communication, opens all signal lines to its orb and set location setting. Redirect signals in operation direction operates line set like in system in direct signals. Setting calculation line interference, sonar line interference, calculation line in positions 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 line center line interference of 7 calculations, line condition of levels, equal line condition of 49. He calculates the bracket line calculation of 9, 9 location of 7, 7 in position locations into operation signal. Digital code, digital number, line interference locations of 4 9s and 3 set lines of 3 9 line interference, line condition system, and track line communications. Right, 4 over channel, 9 in position over pi through calculations. Done by equation. So I know there's a lot going on right now. To understand how this process works for you in all ways and forms, guys, you just have to really understand how to redirect everything through your set line communication, your settings. But it's really understand how to use the calculation, modification, all of the kaleidoscope line interference, the observation locations to your projections of your sun and your moon. You notice all calculations and setting location is the sun and the moon. You need the sun and the moon. Sun is a light traction, and the moon is the emotion location. Sun has emotion, so does the moon. But all calculated, modified line setting, line interference, high location comes into its flux capacitor. You are the center operation of your set location system. The track communication comes into line calculation in your settings, directing signals operation to its surface locations and position locations in all levels. Open up signal, line calculation setting, and higher calculation line interference, higher calculation into a test direct line position locations of its operation surface of its intelligent locations. There's the intelligence. Multipass. See? It's amazing when you come into line condition of travel position line settings all through intelligent locations. Right? You're the center operation line settings, but always have the operation of its ground lines. So in that position, we all have to learn how to use the 9 lines of 7. Now that's theta positions over pi. Now that redirect line conditions those box lines into its triangle line setting locations. One is male, one is female. See? Box lines of male, one eye scepter, and triangulations. Okay? You can't have male and male in both eyes. It's got to be male and female in both eyes. So it's male and female, okay, in left line and right line. Masculinity and femininity in both balance line calculation setting. Splitting division location to a set line calculations and open line signal. Higher levels of intelligence in set location. Higher levels of intelligence settings, right? So we all have to learn how to use the protocol set locations into higher settings. Really understand how to redirect line calculation system and track line communications, right? So getting into that line interference sets all positions. So we center lines communication of the 0 lines for set location, right? And we set line communications into 5 lines, okay? So we got 4 lines above and we got 5 lines below, okay? Now, you have to understand how to use it through console in position of point system. Console, position location of flux capacitor system, okay? So we all have to learn how to use the 0 lines and rotations to a graph line rotation surface. In line calculation system, travel line setting and mechanism of high calculation setting, direct signals. Now, directing signal line interference, now this comes into all calculation system at Goodwill Hunting. That's how it's location system. How 4 line comes into 5 line center line interference, and 54 calculation streamlines. Setting calculation line interference and position locations. Setting line direct locations into 45 set location setting. Indirect signals, setting Y lines and position flux capacitor set location setting, center line communications, opens up all panels of operation lines of travel in calculation line in position of panel and set location system. Now, directing signals is to understand how to set line communication. You open up line center line condition of 0 operation, travels at set locations. Now, in that direct signal, you set a line communications into 4 lines at set location of travel. Redirect line center line interference. You set the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 line centers in position of 4, 54 line rotations, opens up circles in another correlation setting into another panel. Now that panel lines is center line interference and travels its communication to its position in set line connections. All right. That's how you use 5 over 4 or 4 over 5 calculation line setting, how to redirect and direct signals in set location system into zero lines of 114 set locations. Right. So you start with the zero line rotations, flux path communications, and line connections, right? Center calculation and opens all sequence location of panels to operation surface and cell location system and track communication. Line strips its line setting. Zero operation to its surface location to its set line calculation setting. Redirect signals in a magnetic highway informational line that sets its position location to its tone system in the center operation. Done by equation. Now, understanding mechanism of travels. The center communication is pixel activation line setting. You have to really understand how to use the pixels in your T reception line. Each pixel has a plateau calculation streamline. Right? Each pixel has a communication to its total waving line. Each pixel crosses signals location of its timestamp line. Restaurant timeline sets line communication, electrical line communication, and position location, operation surface, and line conditionized system, and all travel communication line settings, and all calculation streamline position. Now, in that line calculation, it comes into position locations and line calculations to its pi. Pi represents timelines in position location of 1, in position of 2, in position location of 3, in position locations of 4, and implications of 5. So that's 1 line, 2 line, 3 line, 4 line, and 5 in position. Tracking communication line interference. We take the track lines at glance of 2, 7 line position of 7, equal lines of 9, 9 lines in position location 9, equal lines of 7 is set locations. Bring the 97 set lines of center communication, travels its line setting, operation to its surface, downshift its line calculation system, higher levels earth line rotation setting, and travel communications all levels as signal rotation system locations. Done by equation. All right. So it's very informative once you understand how to set lines of communication. You guys are 9 lines of 7. Okay, 9 lines of 7 and set locations. All right, 9 lines of 7. All right. So the 9 lines of omega line consists of beta line consists of alpha line centers of delta. Theta is in the center of communication of its position, open signal location, and travel line setting. Theta comes in shift line communication and travel calculations into its triangulation of 3 in position of 4. Okay, so 4 line setting in position of 1, 2, 3, 4 in set locations. 3 line settings, up line, center line is in position locations, changes the atom lines in line calculation system 1, 2, 3 set location settings, right? In that direct line interference, the set lines of the 4 line travels its position locations or levels into the ground lines of its box location, right? Now the box location sets line settings. Now you have theta communication, electrical line, travels communication, right? Center line interference sets another box line rotation center to its delta wave communication. Delta line center line interference sets line communication alpha line, center line interference of the circle line into the moon. The moon comes into 9 position location of travels and energy wash line setting. Setting calculation interference. Box line setting changes position location of dimensional door lines. High lines is position location of travel. There's some time sequence comes into the line communication of the moon into the center lines of 3 operation signals in set locations. Setting communication line interference, we take the 4 lines into the center communication of the sun and 4 track line connections. Travels line setting opens up another signal line rotation system in kaleidoscope line condition of travel and mechanism line interference, sets communication and set lines and higher levels of travel in communication system and direct signals as allocations. Down by equation, right? So there's a lot of travel line setting positions. We start with the radio signals. We start with the interline connection system, the interdimensional line centers, the lockset locations, the galactic surface. It's truly to understand how to use position locations, how to implicate its setting. All travel communication comes into line center location and wave set locations. All right. Now, I really want you to understand that because you have to really get information location in your inventories. You got a 0 line rotations in position of 1 position location of box position of triangle. Let's start with that set of locations. Now, that implicates the box, and this implicates the triangle. What do you want to do with the triangle? Set of communication center line, right? So we take the line condition of 0 and set location, right? So what I'm doing here, I'm setting here, right? So that's how you travel line conditions. The operation surface sets line communication of travels and travels line center location of 12 lines. You have to go through 12 set location, right? To travel communication, go to higher lines into its plateau. So I'm showing you how you go through center lines of plateau into your pyramid set line condition setting in direct signal set location. Setting direct line center, laser direct location at 3 lines into your elixirs, into cosmic flame and your serpent fire communication. Setting direct locations into center calculation. Pyramid here and set line condition system. Pyramid here and set line communication. 3-line channel operation line settings. Opens up signal into triangulations, into box, into circle line condition of travel. Setting calculation lines in position of 6 in set locations. Now this implicates line interference of higher travel communications into a downshift cross line stream in set location setting and dimensions done by equation, right? And so there's a lot of things that are set up positions. I really want you guys to understand how to use that line conditions. 1 equals lines of location of GOD, right? How does 1 equal lines of GOD? All levels of geometric, all levels of operation, all levels of its division. Okay, so understands the grounds operation, understand its operation of a center line communication flux capacitor, and its position location of travel and center communication and position location high setting. So that's how 1 equals God in position locations. Inline center of 0, operation surface, inline center of magnetic higher information, and tube line center rotation surface instead of locations. Now, understanding line calculation setting is all levels of travel line connections of plateau, setting communication, zigzag zoom, and line rotation positions, brings track line calculation setting, and all levels of GOD and track location system and track setting. So it's all recognition time. So the UFO in set line condition setting above sets line communication, scans lines and operations surface and travels through line center, scanning line interference opens up another rotation surface and set location system. Center calculation lines, it discharges line center operation surface to a black hole and set location of ground lines. It opens all signals and set locations down by equation. So understanding the atmosphere line conditions to its biosurface is really understanding how to use position locations of laser calculation line interference, because the UFO travels line position location to this line setting, right? Travels here, travels here, travels here, and travels here in set location. Now, that's the calculations where it levitates. UFOs don't fly, they levitate. Setting calculation lines are ground lines. They always stay above the signal locations in the absolute line conditions of travel positions. All right. So getting cross line streams, point system, point system, point system, point system. They always have point systems. Triangulation, position, triangulation, position, triangulation, position, cross and stream. Now, in that direct line center, the atmosphere line in a rotation position location, the UFO indicates its position. So you got a pixel activation line center, 0 line position location of 1, in line conditions of a triangle. Center line position locations. 1 line implicates its line conditions of its box. Set location of a triangle, set position location of box, set position of triangle, set position location of this box. So box line setting, position locations, 3 line center rotation interference, 3 set line conditions, 3 set line conditions, 3 set line conditions, panel line rotation interference, set communication setting, opens all signal line condition system, heart reacting line center line interference, center communication line position location, operation surface and set line condition setting, and 9-7 line settings in position of 4 nines, operation lines and flux capacitor communications in box line rotation at T reception line calculation and pixel active stream of holographic line setting. Done by equation. So there's a lot of connections to settings. You have to really understand how to use in all ways and forms because it's all levels of connection. All right. Recognizing these things is truly understand how to use position location and clock lines. That's position locations. Yes, exactly, Gypsy. So we're going to understand that. We understand the 12 lines, right? The 24. Okay, so you got the 12 lines. So 12 line center line interference calculates the 24 set locations, right? So setting lines of 24 set line position locations, high setting. Now the 24 line center location is its 48 set location system, right? So you always put the 12 at the top and 24 in the center because that's what you're coming into, ground lines of operation, right? Ground lines of operation. So 48 becomes its window of its T reception. Opens the signal, right? 24 is your grounds in set location of yin and yang. So this is the process of 12 lines of clocking. This is the process of 24. 12 is at the top, 24 is in the middle. 24 is at the top, 48 is in the middle. Setting communication line interference comes into 72. 72 line center line interference in position of 144 in set location setting. Okay, so you have to recognize the grounds of positions of 12, 24, 48, 72. 12 line signal line interference is the 24 grounds of 0. Okay, sending communication line center. So you come in position of 24 in line calculation setting in direct line signal. So 24 becomes 48, and 48 becomes 72, and 72 becomes 144 in set location system. So you have to recognize the force recognition line calculation of travel set line conditions. Directing signal line interference is center communications into the indication when it comes into your sun in position location of you through travel. Setting direct signals line condition system has an arrow line direct line centers into 3 set locations. 1, 2, 3. 3 set line condition system allocates 1 line in position of 2 in position of 3. Center communication comes into the sun of operation stream location and travel. Setting line in line rotation interference sets position locations. Now, when you get in line interference of Hall position locations in 24, 24 comes into 13, which is what? 1 p.m., right? So we go from position location of 1 p.m., 2 p.m., 3 p.m., 4 p.m., 5 p.m., all the way up to the set location settings. But in track interference in set line communication setting, you have to really understand how to recognize the clock lines in position of 24 to 48 set locations. Remember, 40 is its window. 72 is its computer operation system to its location setting. And 144 is its flux capacitor of travel communication. All right, that's all it is. All right, so we get in that line interference. We start again with the 24. 24 sets line calculation setting. Pi rectum timelines in set location 1 system. Now that track line calculation system is 1, 2, 3 set line condition system, right? All levels. So that's 13. That's position locations of 14 and position locations of 15 set locations, all right? So we go into 13,000 line setting, okay, in position. We go into 14,000 line setting in positions, and we go into 15. So 15,000 line setting, equal line conditions is 3 in set locations. Right? So once we reach 3, we come into the sun line of communication of travel into another pi direction of time sequence. Now that time sequence is very powerful when you come into calculation of center line of communication setting. This redirects the signal's locations into position. The 24 comes into a 48 line setting of a rotation surface into your box location of travel and opens up levels of dimensional lines of round communication into higher level travels and universal lines of lock location system. Travel calculations, guys, right? So 15,000 line centers equal locations is 3, is the sun. That's how you use the 24 clock lines in 3 set locations. So in that communication setting, and if you're using line communication of 13, its calculations to what? Right? What is it positions to? 24, right? Is calculated to what? 13 setting, right? Which is 1 p.m. So that's 1,000 line setting equals pi. 1,000 line setting equals pi. Track interference, 24 ground lines, equal line conditions of 48. 48 position of 72 in set locations, equal line condition system into your pyramid activation line center, center communications into 140's track location. Okay, all through a position of a 24 into set lines of 1 set location. So in that line conditions is 13. 13 line conditions equals 1 p.m., right? In set line conditions, right? Right? So once you reach that line calculation setting, you come into this crop circle locations. Congratulations, 144. 144 sets line communication high center interference, sets communication to higher levels and electrical line settings in 3-panel communication. So we all have to understand how to use the clock lines in your 24 grounds. You need your 24 grounds of your left and your right. This platitude is its location system. So getting into that calculations, you understand how to use the 15,000. That equals 3, right? So it's all levels of foundations of 0 to 12, right, through clock line. Always have that in memory. Always have that in its correlation of communication. Really understand how to use that through collaboration. You really have to understand how to use the avatar through its clocking, okay? How position locations at 12, equal lines at 12, comes into 24 in set location system, right? How does 24 into 24 Now, equal line center line conditions XT1000. You need the XT1000 line setting. The equal line conditions of 48 set line condition system. So the center is a 48, clock line setting. 48 is positions to what? It's set lines and position locations cell settings, right? So in that line communication system, you have to truly understand how to use the calculations of 12, 24, 48, 72, and 144 through clocking line setting. It's all levels of adding, subtracting, dividing, and all set line conditions, but we use it as maps of equation, longitude and latitude, to get to and from its position, location, and setting. You have to really understand how to travel through line condition system of the clock lines of its dimension of space and time through its pi. 12 line centers, 12 line interference is 24 pi. Okay, 24 is 48 of pi. So in that set line communication system, how does that work? Line calculation setting in set location system, right? So we all have to worry and set line condition system of not worry, right? Sorry, not sorry. Getting in that position location is a level setting. Setting communications that you are in position of track line, you are in position of all levels of correlation, you're all position locations being together, and set lines of communications. Really understand how to use the 24 ground lines into 48 windows, into 72 computers, into 144 track location of your crystal grid line condition that's clocking in set locations of pi. Okay, so now you understand that the importance is to understand the clock lines through its dimension, to understand how to see everything through all that position. All right. So I just wanted to show you how powerful that is when you come into that calculation line in all set location system and track communications. Right. So yeah, you know, it's extremely powerful when you come into that setting in set locations, right? It's incredible. So that sets line communication of travel lines and set lines high setting. Okay. How to come in that position locations. Right? How to use the 24 clock, how to use the position locations of its 48, how to use the 72, how to use the 144, right? So each one has a 3-line setting of a dial set location system, right? So this is the 12 lines, right? So center line is the 24 set locations waiting on a signal. So when that happens, the 12 line comes around, 12 equal line consists of XT1000 line, comes in line condition of 24. So 24 comes here at the top signal. So every time it goes around, it's going through circles and circles and circles. It's going through force recognition of travel in set locations, right? So once it goes into that, it goes into its 48. Once it goes into that, it goes into 72. Once it goes into that, it goes into its 144. Once it goes into its 144, center communication setting, 144 stands on top. Center communication is 244 in center position. Setting that communication of travel is 144. You start off with 0001, 0002, 0003, 0004 in set location setting. That's the clock lines of 144. So you have to learn how to travel for that line communication setting and understand communication line and positions. Now the zero operation line conditions all levels of zero gravity, 12 line center line position, zero gravity, equal line conditional levels, ozone line setting interference. Now you have to really understand how to use the ground line center line interference and position locations of yin and yang, process calculations of light and position locations of dark, right? So light and dark comes in position on the track line. What is light position? Sun. What is the dark position? Moon line rotation. Setting calculations of position of line conditions of kaleidoscope line conditions puts position location of line in position locations of yin and yang and process. Okay, done my equation. All right, so it's the yin and yang process calculation. So you understand that 24 is the ground line, operation surface, location system. This implicates lines of zero operation into your pyramid set line conditions. Pyramids on the ground line, rotation surface. This is your pyramid that you're working with every single day locations. There's your pyramid, right? Sending calculations into your crop circles, setting direct signals, location of laser direct location to 3 set location settings, directions of 4 and position of 5 set line conditions, right? Now that lines its center line and rotations into your solar plex location. Now, getting into that position locations comes into its energy hub and communication. Setting direct signal line conditions, laser direct signal locations in 3 set line condition system and all track line conditions. Now, tracking communications opens up another line rotation surface in set locations. This higher lines its channel into security in set location. All right? See the intelligence? Setting line interference line connecting high center line and position locations comes into the lines of two line rotation surface in set locations. Now, this implicates line conditions of UFO line rotation and center line conditions. Travel communication lines and lines of center line rotation, center lines in rotation, circle line rotation in positions opens up higher levels of travel and communication. Right? Now, you have to really understand how to use all levels of zero lines of gravel line setting. Gravitation line interference, equal line conditions of ozone line in position locations in the level line conditions of 1, in position location of 2, lines of 3, in position of 4, in position of 5 set location. Okay? So the UFO comes in line, lines interference, scans position of 4 and 5. The center communication. Right? Another UFO comes in set locations, scans line centers of 3 and 2 in set location system. Now the UFO comes in line center, line conditions of system, ground levels of operation to surface locations, scan lines of center operation. Right? So you have to understand what the UFOs are doing. They're scanning all calculation system of your 0 grounds to 12 set locations. It's very powerful when you come into that line setting, guys. Just really understand to use your foundations constantly, over and over and over and over and over. Always have that in memory. Memory all the time. Memory is extremely important in what you're doing through doing in set line conditions of knowing. Knowing and doing and knowing is set line conditions setting in position locations. So everything you're doing is a force to be reckoned with. Understand how to use your clock lines of 24, 48, 72 and position locations all line setting. It's all recognition of time sequence when it comes into plateau calculation system. It's all track interference when you come to all operation line setting and track communication of 0 operation with surface line conditions. So remember, you got your pyramid on the ground line in set line condition system. There's your pyramid, right? Okay, coming into line calculation system. Ground lines is travel line position locations. All right, setting that line condition system, you come into the center line in travel communication. Okay. Now, as it sets signal line condition, comes into an orb channel operation to set locations. Now, in that line conditions comes into center line communication, right? So your job is basically to understand the atom rotation of its surface in channel communication. Now, in line and center line interference, you have 2 satellite connections, right? Sun positions and the moon position location. All right? Setting calculation travel. All right? In position to kaleidoscope location projections. Right? So that projects line setting line interference, set line communication system. This opens all channel line calculation system to your infinity cycles of high calculation. Now that line communication system sets up another tunnel in line conditions of 2 6 line settings. So the moon travels here and the moon travels here in set location system. Interaction. And so you really have to understand how to use the 0 lines in position of all invocation settings in position of 6 and 6. The moon understands the track lines as the sun understands the light interference. Setting line position location is understanding how to travel through line conditionized settings of position through dimensional space and time. Okay? So it's important to understand the connections to the grounds in position location of 24 and 48 sets line communication to center. You got to understand that because that's an open window with set line condition system. This opens up panels. This opens up, it's like your phone. It opens up more line setting and travel communication, right? And then you go through the center communication, right? You go through the center and opens up another panel, right? So what you're doing is you're going to higher levels of travel and higher calculation setting. So it goes faster and faster and faster. But you have to understand the wave central line calculation setting interference. Now you have to really understand how to work towards all levels of galaxy set line conditions, right? Because there's galaxy lines of box and there's galaxy lines of triangle. So there's 4 lines of implication. So the center line communication line interference. Now 3 lines center line interference. So it's interesting to look at this system. 3 is the line condition of the sun. 4 line conditions, high center line position locations, all levels. So you take the 4 and 3 lines, setting communication of 7, 7 line conditions of 5, 5 line conditions of 12, sets line communication of center, line in rotation to its position location of travel, and set location setting. Okay? So 4 lines of 3 is 7. 7 equals 5. 5 lines center line interference is 12. right? So it's really interesting how it comes in like a good setting to your DNA setting. In rotation of ground lines, operation to its surface, inside location of magnetic highway information line setting, into tube line rotations, into position locations, all levels of set line connection system, to higher levels of travel line conditions, to your Merkabahs or test or high calculation setting. And track location. All right. So I think it's fascinating when you guys really understand how to use your clock lines. Because the thing is, you have to understand the position locations is your 5 lines, right? So you got 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, it's line connection. The U in the center is 5. So connection of north, east, west, and south location. Right? Zero lines always have the zero line communications, right? So center communication, flux capacitor comes out of position. Okay. Now in that line conditionized system, it comes into the line center of the center line, okay, which is the operation surface into your infinity that opens all position. Now in that calculation line interference, you come into line condition of north, east, the set lines, in position of west, okay, in the east line communication. Setting direct line interference. So the northeast line condition is position of the sun, and the west-east is position location of the moon that implicates its line center location of travel set line conditions. Now in that direct line center line interference, the sun can move higher level setting into north of south in set line condition system, a ground line operation, as the moon can set lines of north into east position locations on levels at set location. Right? So it's really understand. See, it's travel. It disappears. So I really want you to understand, because you're reaching higher level settings, because you're coming in digital code locations into all communication of 100 now. So you really have to understand how to travel through 24, 48, 72, and 144 crystal grid. Okay? I just showed you exactly what it is, how it's set up. 24 ground lines, easy location of ground level. Okay? 48 equine conditions is its window. 72 is calculation setting to its computer, and 144 is set locations to your crystal grid location setting. That's how it's set up. 24 clocking, 48 window, 72 computer, and 144 is set location system. 2 panels operation line settings. Inset line condition system, taking track, taking track, taking track, taking track, taking track, taking track, location of laser settings. Rest of time sequence. 2 panels, line split, line communication system, and all set line conditions. So the operational line center line conditions at ground levels opens all signal line conditions to lines of circular rotation, setting lines of circular line rotation surface and set location system. That directs line center locations high setting. So you got 4 atom rotation and connecting to each other, right? So it sets signal line interference. Setting communication line interference is set locations higher levels in position locations of the sun in its operation surface and set location. All right. Now, indirect line center line interference, it travels its communications into all setting. You start with the zero line, position of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 line setting, right? Redirect line condition of the moon, position locations into downshift line cross, saying 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 in set location system. Directing signals from going up and down, longitude, latitude, in position of length, width, to and from. E equals mc squared. Okay? Birthing calculation is truly understand the zero of operation is all crop circle. In modification line conditionized system, which is very powerful, in set line conditions, I'll share this with you. So every time you're traveling, you're coming out of your calculations of your birth mother every single day. Every single day. You're being grown every single day through its weeds. You're coming up because you're changing your direct line setting to the integration locations, to your higher self, to the earth perception, to your avatar. You're being born every single day through its calculation. You start up the crop circles, your pyramid line setting, and then you go into the ground lines, and then you go into security, and then you go into Fibonacci, and then you go into solar plex, and then you go into the heart, and then you go into throat, and then you go into your theta, and then you go into your infinity, and then you go into your energy wash, which is 9 line setting, high line interference location, high center and interception location system, and then you go into your family calculation setting, which is your celestial galactic family set locations, and then you go into your solar system, and then you go into your infinity set locations of your divine. Of your earth perception locations, of all locations. Okay, that's how it's set up, and all set connections to its operation. Okay, all through 4-line settings, right? Northwest, south, and east. Okay, summer, spring, winter, fall. Hello, is that coincidence? What's 4 and 4-line setting? 8. That's infinity right there. Okay. So setting that position location is to truly understand how to use it through all weather communication. We all have to understand how this all works in sideline conditions. How you use this all levels of its rotation. Okay. So always have it in implementation to its connections of its memory set of 0 to 12 locations. There are clock lines at 24, 48, 72, and 144 clock line setting. Okay, because the team now is line communicating through 555, getting ready into immortality of 644. So you really have to understand how to travel more in calculation setting to understand the position locations, how to use positions of pi in calculation line and positions to center communications into 15,000 lines, equal line conditions, high setting, interact communication. 3 lines up. All right, that's 3 line setting locations and set lines, high center interference. Now you could change the communications. You can send 1, 2, 3, 4 inline communications, downshift cross line signal. Okay, so 15 equal line centers at 3. So that's 3 position locations, all levels, sending communication to the sun and operation surface. Now, it gets complicated because now it's in 4-line. Now, what is 4-line communication of foundation? Never lose the foundation location is your solar plex, right? Center operation. So that center line's operation to set location system. Changes channel. So you got 4 lines of 3, center position of 4, equal lines of 3. 4 lines of center communication in 3-line setting. Operation surface location of 4 lines, solar generation lines into 3 set locations. So that puts a 7 equal line of digit line condition system into plateau location setting into your calculations to its digital code system. Okay, it's a 7-digit number, right? Through the sun, it's that location you're setting positions, right? Through solar plex. So if you're using 6 in line calculation setting, 6 equal line condition system locations, 6 is implicated in what? In 24 signal. All right. What is 6 lines? Okay. Getting calculation line interference locations to truly understand how to use the 24 clocking all the way to a half pipe of 6 line connections, right? So we know 13 is position of 1, 14 is 2, 15 is 3, 16 is 4, 17 is 5. So if 16 is 4, 6 equals 4,000 line signatures in set locations. We take the 3-line setting, set up position operation to its moon. That opens up its signal to set location. There's the moon. Right. So that's how you travel into higher calculation line interference in half pi and communication. Very complicated stuff. But now you guys are going to higher levels into 3-digit code line connection system. Try to understand how to travel through 144 in set location system of 0001 operation. Okay. So I'm just showing you how powerful it is to come into your set lines here 24. That's all 24, right? But I used a higher level setting in dimensional and rotations. So 4 lines, the line consists of 2, right? 4 equals 2. So 2 lines, it's 2 line, 2 lines, it's 2 line, position locations of Pluto. 2 track lines and 3 set location setting, right? So 4 lines of solar generation line interference sets position location of 3, which is a Fibonacci line signal, and set location of travel set location. So we have to learn how to use the 4 lines and position of 3 lines, 43 communication setting, indirect line setting, into a 7-digit number in a line condition system, indirect location of its code is set line calculation setting, indirect signal. Okay, so that's how you become 4 line centers of 3, because there's a 7-digit code, right? So it's interesting when you understand how to use the communication of the sun and the moon through recognition of timelines and position at all levels of pi calculation. All right, 24 line setting, line condition of 1, in position of 2, in position of 3. All right, start with that. So we got 13. You can go 13 million, right? Connection high setting, 13 million. So let's say 13 million equals 6 billion. So that's obviously the moon. So that's 6 billion line circles. Okay, moon comes in. It's traveling through 6 billion cycles in satellite conditions and position, higher travel line setting, and records of time sequence. So we take the 6 lines in the center of communication, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Center calculations into, no, it's no longer in set lines of 48 window. It's in a 48 billion line setting in track location system. All right. So we take the 48 billion line interference, setting calculations, getting ready in positions to the 72 into 70 trillion line settings and line interference and travel communications. And set line calculation system to fix factors strain location. Okay. So I think we'll stop there. I'm just showing you how basically how you can infuse settings and set lines that all communication are clock lines. Right? You guys are going to have a lot of questions now because everything's changed. You're coming into a 3-digit code to a 4-line string, which is a 7-digit number to a set location. Okay? So it's very powerful when we come into that setting. Okay? And this is just through a 24 line. But remember, I'm working with higher level setting. So all you have to do is really understand how to use the foundation line set location of 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. That's it. Right? 0 lines, 1 line, 2 lines security, 3 lines of Fibonacci, right? 4 line is business and solar line condition setting line conditions of travel. 5 is the heart line rotation. 6 is the throat line setting. And 7 is your theta box location, right? So you have to really understand always use the clock lines. So you have a 24 signal line condition system, right? So use the 12 here inside location. Okay. This gives you a better understanding. So you're always using that through foundation locations. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay. Always use the 12 lines and 3-digit line setting line interference because that's what you're coming into. You're coming into 1, 2, and 3-digit locations. Right? There's the pi. Right? There's its connection. There's the flux capacitor and center line communications. Center lines, it's 1, in position of 2, in position of 3, and set locations. Now, as it travels, it goes into a circle line communication. As it comes in a circle line, it center lines its position location of travel and set locations. Now, this aligns its center line interference. It sets lines of 2-panel operation string locations. This opens up its signal to higher levels of dimension line condition system in a 24 clock line setting. Hooah! In center communication, you travel through it in set line conditions. You travel through the location system. You travel through the location system. That's it. Done! Woo! Great job, everyone. So I guess, where's it all coming from? Oh, boy. Okay, so like I said, we really have to understand more levels how to travel through clock lines, especially when you're avatar of integration settings. But I'm just showing you how you can go way beyond how to use your foundation lines. So when you get in your clock of travel communication at 24, 48, 72, 104, use always the 12 and the center line inside. So every time you're going faster and faster and faster, you're putting the 24 to 48, 48 here, 72, 72, 144. 144, 244, 344, 444. So it went right? And that communication line interference, you can go to higher levels of clock lines. You can get into shapes, letters, numbers, and symbols through its own clock line setting to higher levels of division location of dimensions of space and time. So setting communication line interference, this is a clock line setting location that's all calculation modified. The set lines. So we go into this clock line setting, right? In position locations. This is a clock. A set line condition system. This is a clock and set line communications. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I can have the number 6 in line conditions. That's a clock. How to use it is to understand. 6 lines equal line conditions of triangle. Triangulation of circle. Lines of rotation surface of travel communication in positional levels 12 line, center line, interference, inline conditions of the system. 12 equals 12. Setting position of 24 lines, center line, and positions. Fibonacci swirls the line calculates the system, and triangulation line calculates the setting. Triangle line interference is zero operations, surface location setting, direct line signal. It's set locations. All calculations through a 6 o'clock line setting. It doesn't have to be a 12. It could be a 3. So this is the true understanding where you can have a clock like this. You don't need a circle. You can travel to this line setting and travel communication. See, this is a clock. Everything's a clock of travel communication. Travel communication. See, that's all it is. Travel, travel, travel. It's not complicated. Getting in that position locations is true to understand if you want to understand more lines through geometric operation of its projection. But to understand, you're using all different clocks of zero line. This is a clock. This is a clock. This is a clock locations. All these are clocks at different time, at different dimensions of space through pi. Okay? So we'll stop there. All right? 5 2 minutes. See you guys in Zoom. Adios.